Have you ever felt like no matter how much you give, it's never enough? That no matter how kind, helpful, or agreeable you are, something inside feels hollow, unseen, even unloved. Maybe you've spent years trying to be the perfect friend, the reliable child, the accommodating partner. But what if I told you that this constant urge to please others wasn't your personality, it was your programming? A silent, invisible script handed down not through words, but through glances, tones, expectations. This is not just psychology. This is a philosophical unraveling of the self. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. You are about to enter a journey so personal, it may shake the very foundation of who you think you are. We begin with a single truth. Children are mirrors. In their earliest years, they reflect back the emotional environment they are raised in. If your parents were emotionally unpredictable, overly critical, or constantly seeking validation themselves, you learned without knowing it that love must be earned. You learned to scan the emotional temperature of a room before speaking. You learned to mold yourself into what others needed. And because love is survival to a child, people-pleasing became your shield. But who are you beneath the shield? That question is more than psychological. It's philosophical. As Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So ask yourself honestly, have you ever truly been you? Let's go deeper. Imagine growing up in a home where love was conditional. If you behaved well, you were praised. If you made a mistake, you were shamed. This taught you something dangerous, that your worth depends on your performance. And so you became hyper-vigilant. You started anticipating others' needs before they even asked. You learned to smile when you were sad, to agree when you disagreed, to apologize even when you weren't wrong. Why? Because being yourself felt risky. And slowly, you began to believe that being good meant being selfless. But is that true? Or did you confuse self-erasure with kindness? Now think about this. Who benefits from your people-pleasing? Often, it's those who are least willing to meet you halfway. And yet, you keep giving. You keep sacrificing. Deep down, you may even resent it, but guilt has been wired into your nervous system. You feel guilty for saying no. You feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. This guilt, where did it come from? It's not natural. It's inherited, built from years of being taught that your role is to serve, to fix, to make peace. But peace at what cost? As the philosopher Epictetus said, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. So ask yourself, what false truths about love, value, and selfhood have you accepted without question?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's talk about identity. When you are a people pleaser, your identity becomes fluid. You shift depending on who you're with. You say yes when you want to say no. You laugh at jokes that hurt you. You pretend to be okay when your soul is screaming. Over time, this chips away at your core. You become a ghost in your own life. And here's the paradox. The more you please others, the more invisible you become. Because if no one ever hears your truth, then who are they really loving? A mask? A performance? Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote, "The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. So think, have you lost yourself quietly?" Now we arrive at something haunting. Many people pleasers were once parentified children. This means you were forced to become emotionally responsible for your parents. Maybe your mother leaned on you for support. Maybe your father confided in you about his struggles. You were praised for being mature, wise beyond your years. But this wasn't maturity. This was survival. You were robbed of your childhood. And in return, you developed a hyper-empathic radar. You learn to sense danger in silence. You learn to regulate others' emotions to feel safe. That's not empathy. That's trauma response. And if you don't examine it, you will spend your life confusing enmeshment with connection. Let's pause for a moment and ask the question that could change everything. Who would you be if no one needed you? Let that question sit in your bones. Who would you be if your worth wasn't measured by your usefulness? If your love didn't have to come with sacrifice? Most people pleasers don't know because they've never had the chance to ask. But this is the beginning of a rebirth, a philosophical and psychological awakening. You are not here to be loved for your obedience. You are here to be known for your truth, your voice, your boundaries. And here's the hard truth. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are doors to let the right ones in. Let's dive into why this is so hard to change. The people pleaser is addicted to harmony, but not real harmony, superficial harmony. The kind that avoids conflict even when conflict is necessary. You were trained to believe that disagreement is dangerous, so you avoid it. But in doing so, you betray yourself. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you fracture your integrity. And here's the silent killer. People-pleasing masquerades as love, but it's really fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment. Fear of disappointing those who matter most. But what if I told you that your authenticity is more powerful than your compliance? That self-respect is the deepest form of love. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your why cannot be to please others. That is a why rooted in fear. Your why must be rooted in truth. And truth is often uncomfortable. It demands you to say no, to walk away, to disappoint, to stop explaining yourself, and often to lose people who only love the version of you that made their life easier. But this loss is not a curse. It is a doorway. Because every time you say no to someone else's script, you say yes to your own. Here's something even more radical. People-pleasing is not kindness. It's manipulation, not in an evil way, but in a desperate one. You please others to control how they see you. You give in hopes of being valued. You bend so that no one ever leaves. But that's not honesty. That's performance. And deep down you know it. Because even when people appreciate you, you don't feel fulfilled. Why? Because they are appreciating the version of you that hides your truth. So ask yourself, do you want to be liked or do you want to be known? Let's talk about love. Real love. The kind that sees you, holds you, respects your boundaries. People pleasers often confuse attention with affection, approval with connection. But true connection requires honesty. It requires saying, "This is who I am. Will you still stay?" And yes, that's terrifying, because you may lose people. But who are you without that risk? If you're always pleasing, you're never risking. And if you're never risking, you're not really living. As the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." So what are you making of yourself when you betray your truth? Let's bring it into the body. People-pleasing is not just mental, it's physical. Your nervous system is wired to detect disappointment. Your heart races when someone is upset with you. Your stomach twists when you say no. Why? Because your body still thinks that love is fragile, that safety depends on compliance. This is why healing people-pleasing is not just about mindset. It's about retraining your body to feel safe in truth, to breathe through guilt, to sit with the discomfort of being misunderstood. Because freedom doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being real. Now, here's a truth that hurts. Some people will only love you when you are small, when you don't need much, when you agree, when you serve. And the moment you stand up, they will call you selfish, difficult, dramatic. But that's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their inability to love someone whole. And that's okay, because their love was never real, it was conditional. And you, dear soul, are not here to earn love. You are here to embody it. So where do we go from here? We begin with awareness. Start noticing the moments when you say yes out of fear. Catch yourself when you shrink, when you apologize for existing, when you over-explain. And in those moments, breathe. You are reprogramming decades of conditioning. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because every time you choose your truth over their comfort, you reclaim your soul. Let's return to a deep question. What is love if it demands your silence? So many of us were raised to believe that love is about sacrifice, about compromise to the point of self-erasure. But that's not love. That's appeasement. And when you grow up in a household where your emotional needs weren't honored, you internalize the belief that your voice is a threat, that speaking your truth causes conflict, that your presence is too much. So you become small. You become agreeable. You become what they needed, and in doing so, you forget what you needed. True self-love begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. Let's go even deeper. Philosophy isn't just about examining thoughts, it's about examining the nature of reality. And the reality is, many of us have never actually met ourselves. We've met our roles, our personas, our masks. But our true self, that self has been buried under years of performance. You were taught to be the fixer, the responsible one, the helper, but not the feeler, not the truth teller, and certainly not the one who says, no, that doesn't work for me. So if you've spent your life trying to keep the peace, ask yourself this: at what cost? The cost is immense. It's your peace, your authenticity, your time, your soul. You see, people-pleasing is not free. It drains you of your energy every single day. You smile when you're exhausted. You agree when your body screams no. You offer help when you need help. This is not generosity, it's self-abandonment. And the worst part? No one sees it, because you've trained them not to. You've convinced the world you're fine, but deep down, you're screaming for someone to ask, what do you need? But here's the thing, no one will ask until you do. You must become the one who advocates for you, who stands for your needs, who says, I matter too. This is where psychology becomes empowerment, because you're not broken, you're patterned, and patterns can be unlearned. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You can't define yourself through others' approval. You must meet yourself in your truth. And that starts with courage. Courage is not about fearlessness. It's about feeling the fear and choosing truth anyway. It's about disappointing others to remain loyal to yourself. Yes, that's hard, but it's also liberating. The first time you say no and survive, you begin to realize that the world doesn't end. The guilt comes, the fear comes, but so does the clarity. You begin to see who respects your boundaries and who only loved you for your obedience. And that's when the real journey begins. Because now, you're no longer chasing love. You're creating it from within. Let's explore something profound: the connection between people-pleasing and shame. Shame is the core wound of the people-pleaser. It tells you that your needs are a burden, that your voice is disruptive, that your truth is inconvenient. This is not a small thing. Shame is one of the most powerful emotional forces in human psychology. It silences, isolates, and corrodes the soul. As Brené Brown wisely noted, Shame is the intensely painful feeling that we are unworthy of love and belonging. And yet, so many of us carry shame like skin, never questioning where it came from. It came often from childhood, a look of disapproval, a sigh of irritation, a comment made when we were most vulnerable. Why are you so sensitive? Stop being dramatic. Don't be selfish. These words weren't just criticisms, they were training. They taught us that emotions are dangerous, that needs are weaknesses, that authenticity is a liability. And so we learned to perform. We learned to smile through pain. We learned to earn love by suppressing our truth. But here's the truth that changes everything. You never had to earn it. Love, real love, was never meant to be a transaction. From a philosophical lens, this touches on the deepest questions of identity and freedom. The existentialists believe that we are condemned to be free, that we cannot blame others for our choices once we awaken. And while your people-pleasing began as survival, now it's a choice. A subconscious one, perhaps, but still a choice. The moment you become conscious of it, you become responsible for it. And that's terrifying, but it's also empowering, because it means you can choose differently. You can choose truth. You can choose self-respect. You can choose you. Let's talk about boundaries. Most people pleasers don't lack boundaries, they fear them. Why? Because they fear the reaction. They fear being called mean, selfish, cold. But boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They are a declaration of self-worth. They say, I love you, and I love me too. And yes, some people will leave, but those people were never really with you. They were with the version of you that kept them comfortable. And that version, she's tired. He's exhausted. They're ready to rest. There comes a moment in every healing journey when you must choose comfort or growth. You cannot have both. Growth requires discomfort. It requires saying things you were taught never to say. It requires choosing silence over explanation. It requires disappointing those who benefit from your compliance. But it also brings peace. A deep, grounded peace that comes from living in alignment. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing rejection. You begin to feel free. Let's go one level deeper. People-pleasing is tied to a spiritual hunger, the hunger to be seen, to be loved without conditions, to be valued just for existing. And that's not wrong. That's human. But when we try to meet that hunger by controlling how others see us, we suffer. We become addicted to external validation. And no matter how much we get, it's never enough. Because the only person who can truly see you is you. When you choose truth over performance, you begin to see your own soul. And that vision, it's the beginning of everything. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What thoughts are you living in? Are they thoughts of fear, of guilt, of shame? Or are they thoughts of courage, of clarity, of worth? You have the power to choose, not all at once, but one moment at a time, one boundary at a time, one truth at a time. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be loved by those who see the real you. And here's what no one tells you. The moment you stop people-pleasing, your world will shake. Some relationships will fall apart. Some people will turn cold. You will feel lost, alone, but only for a while. Because soon, something else arrives. Real connections, real peace, real love. Not the kind you earn, but the kind you create by being honest, by being brave, by being you. This is not just healing. This is liberation. So how do you begin? Start small. Say no when you mean no. Pause before you say yes. Sit with the guilt. Don't fix it, feel it. That's your nervous system relearning safety. That's your soul learning to trust itself again. Journal, reflect, breathe. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your truth, who don't need you to shrink for them to shine. And most importantly, tell your inner child, you don't have to earn love anymore. You just have to be. Let's end with this. You were never too much. You were just around people who couldn't hold your truth. You were never wrong for wanting to be heard. You were just taught that silence was safer. But now, you get to choose differently. You get to reclaim your voice, your worth, your freedom. And when you do, something magical happens. You stop living for others and you start living for yourself. And that, dear listener, is the most radical act of love there is. If this stirred something deep within you, don't ignore it. Let it awaken you. Let it guide you. And above all, let it free you.